you want to start or scale your property development business to 8 figures and beyond, then you're in the right place. This is the Property XPerts Podcast with Ben Richards and Jack Jiggins, two serial entrepreneurs bringing weekly insights from our award-winning businesses. In these podcasts, you'll learn how we found, funded and delivered over £80 million worth of property in the last 6 years, with templates you can use, deal analysis and deep dive discussions that will help you build your businesses successfully. We hope you'll enjoy. Hello. And I'm back this week. I'm joining Jack again. It is the property duo on the Property XPerts Podcast. So welcome if you are tuning in. I've been in Antigua last week. I'm straight back into the thick of things. Very stressful day back, realizing how much I need to get back on top of. But as part of these weekly lives, we go through the ups and downs of business ownership, of property development and everything that goes in between it. And if you haven't joined us before, we're XP Property, Ben Richards and Jack Jiggins, and our mission is to deliver 1,000 homes and £1 billion, that's a B in front of Illions, in property in the UK, collaborating with trusted investors. People say that we are ambitious, transparent and creative, and that is why we have those 3 core values on the screen in front of you. So on this week's agenda, it is the 14th of March 2025. I'm going to be talking you through how you can better speed up your building control processes and responses to and fro. Jack is going to be talking through about investment and how an introduction trail works when it comes to raising investment. I'm going to be talking about some of the key things that you will need to supply to building control when you have finished a project. And often, if you think about these things too late, it's going to cost you a lot of money in rectification work. So make sure you've got these on your list of things to do. Jack's got a joke that he's going to be telling, so I'm intrigued about that one. Looking forward to it. And then we're going to be discussing something that we've done over the last couple of years. We want your input on. We've done a summer charity challenge over the last 2 years, and we want to mix it up this year. So we're looking for ideas, and we're going to be talking through some of the things that we've been discussing internally. We've got a social housing investment opportunity. So if you are an investor listening to this, welcome. We are going to be going through what that investment looks like on a high level. And if you or anyone you know of maybe of interest in terms of that opportunity, we'd love to know. We'd love to share it with you. And we do pay fees. So stay around for that. And I'm going to be having a bit of a rant at the end of this about some of the conversations we've been having with some of our lenders and our RICS chartered valuers. So if you like a bit of a rant, stay tuned to the end. We've also got our weekly Q&A from the comments that you guys have made throughout these live sessions. So if you have got a comment, if you have got a question, drop them down below. We will get round to it. If not in this actual episode, we will bring it up in some of the future episodes. And we've got some cracking questions that I think will be really interesting, certainly for commercial to resi conversions. If you're looking to get into that space, we've got some really good questions that I think will tease a few things and golden nuggets out of Jack and I at the end of this session. So do stay tuned. Cool. This was something that is very prevalent for us at the moment. We are finishing off our 8-unit scheme in Marlow. We are finishing off our 9-unit scheme as part of phase 1 in St Andrew's Court in Tame. So we are ticking the final boxes from a building control perspective, and it's never over till it's over. I never count my chickens in terms of getting that approval until the certification is over the line. But there are a few things that we do to improve our chances, I guess, or just keep tabs on things. You have various visits by building control throughout the works, and some things can quite easily get missed if you don't keep a tracker for them. And one thing I learned at the Berkeley Group is that you need a tracker for your trackers and have trackers for everything. And it is so important to keep tabs on everything. There's lots of moving puzzle pieces and spinning plates within property developments. So the more you can standardize and track progress of things, the better and faster you're going to be able to deliver information when it's required. And that's what this spreadsheet is about. You can copy this, you can take this away. To be honest, it's quite a simple spreadsheet, but it's something that we use to help keep on top of things. So we've got the building regs section on the left-hand side. Often when building control get back to you on items, they'll outline which part of the building regulations they're referring to. So we've got part A, which is structure here, part B, which is fire safety, then goes on to part K, part E, well, all the different phases, and all of the comments that they had based on both the plans checks. So when you're going through the building control process, often you will submit a package of information to them. They will call that a plan check, and they will look at your drawings, look at your engineering calculations, your engineer's designs, and then come back to you with comments based on purely the plans checks. And then once you start works, a building control officer will come out at various stages throughout the work to check progress and check that it's compliant. So what you'll have is two sets of information. You'll have the plans check from people sat in the office looking at your drawings, and then you'll get the realistic what's happening on site type information. And you need to track both of those. So if you can hit and tick off all of the relevant things from the plans check very early in the process, I would implore you to do so, to save you any issues going forward with the actual build. And then as things progress, there'll be things that crop up. They'll come out to site. So this isn't quite right. Give us your explanation for this. Where's your certification for that? And this is what this tracker is all about. So it's comments that have come back from building control, whether it's opened or closed and what progress stage it's at, whether the documents have been provided for that particular question, and then our response, basically. So what we've got here is the XP property response, who it's been allocated to within our team, for example. And then because there might be a little bit of back and forth with these things, it's then tracking the responses through. So I can at any time see what progress Tom is at in terms of responding to these items to building control. So we sent back a first response, the approved inspector, building control inspector, approved building control body, whatever they're called nowadays, come back with a response. And then we've then gone back a few other times with further information or further clarifications. And I guess this was all about just saying, look, make sure you have a document where you are tracking all of the relevant information and questions and queries that have come back from building control. Set it up, have it there live as a link for anyone in your team to go to and collaborate. And at any point during the process, I can see where we are on a certain piece of information that's been requested. And we've got tabs for plans checker, site inspection reports tracker, and then we've also got our warranties. So sometimes building control and warranty provider will be the same person, and that's great because it's all in one place. But most often we will have a building control body and then a separate warranty provider. The warranty provider isn't going to sign off on their warranties until building control have given their final certificates, and the building warranties provider may have different or additional requirements to provide their insurance certificate. Things like insurance-backed guarantees for flat roofs, insurance-backed guarantees for waterproofing tanking systems, things like that. So again, it's important to both track your building control information and also your warranty provider's requests. Hopefully that was useful. If you want a copy of that template, let us know. I mean, to be honest, it's quite a simple spreadsheet, but we're here to help. Cool. How an trail works for investment.
Yeah, so I thought I'd share this because I was on the phone to actually one of my old bosses yesterday, who now is, he worked in various different entities, but he now works with high net worths across predominantly sports and other areas. And obviously, we've always kept in contact. And the reason that I wanted to share this is because Richard, his name is very keen to work with us to basically introduce the people that he works with who are typically looking to invest. And he asked the question, how does it work in this world? So we've got a slide coming up later, which is, our projects and where we're open for investment. And I thought it would be good to sort of share how we pay introducers fees for funders. So we've got multiple people that have helped introduce us to funds. So our scheme, if you're following in Marlow, was an introduction to an investor, and that introduction alone fortunately recouped a nice introductory fee for the person that introduced it. I'm sure the person that listens to this, I'm sure they'll know and be smiling. But anyway, I wanted to go into detail around the introductory fee and the trail, which is really important. So essentially, we're a development company. We always say to our team, the only thing we really need to leave our office for is investment and capital. So that's sort of a top priority for us to always be engaged for, and to bring the right partners into our business that values align with us, and they like what we're doing, and then they come on board. Now, the introductory process itself, we've had people, in completely different industries. So as an example, my old boss, who doesn't even work in real estate, has got introductions into his network, which is not a real estate network. And we were talking about how it works. And I said, look, we typically pay a fee for an introduction, and then you would also get a trail on any investment they make in the future. So let's say they introduce us to investor, let's call them Wendy. Wendy invests with us. That introducer will get a fee from that introduction and loan, subject to the sort of value of the loan. So if it's normally a percentage of the first lend. If we then build a really strong relationship with Wendy, which we typically do with our investors, because we're in it for the long run, we're focusing on the 10th deal, not the first deal. We may then deal directly with Wendy, which means my contact Richard is not introducing Wendy every time. We're dealing direct with that particular investor, and we're building that relationship with that investor, and that's really important. So what we tell Richard is you will also get a fee on every deal that they do in the future. So if Wendy goes on to invest in a scheme a year or a scheme every other year, all the way up to the point that, we don't work together again or whatever it may be, Richard will be paid a trail, and that is also a percentage of the investment raised. So let's say Richard expects 1 or 2% of the loan that is agreed originally with Wendy. We then would offer to pay 1% on every loan beyond that. So as an introduction, for the amount of work that goes into that, it's a very good return for the introducer. Sort of making that Cupid matchmaking process. So for you guys, if you're listeners out there, you don't have to be doing big scale developments. You just may have to know someone that's interested in investing, and we do pay that arrangement and also the trail. I don't know if many other developers do that, pay the trail piece, because we always want to make sure and incentivize our sort of associates and contacts to bring more people our way, because we've got more deals than capital, and that's realistically, again, while we're talking about our social housing portfolio, there's surplus of deals and requirements to the investment. But I thought that was worthwhile sharing. And actually, the introducer that introduced our investor in Marlow took basically the introductory method was sounding us both out, to the investor. I've got these guys, they do this, they're based in Henley-on-Thames, so are you, blah, blah, and then coming to us and saying we've got this family office that would like to invest. And then it was just a dinner, and that introducer actually got their dinner paid for as well. So they got a free dinner out the back of it, an arrangement for arranging those funds, and then a trail on future work that we do. And we've built a very good relationship with that family, and I'm sure we will do many more deals with them. So it's just putting it out there, because I'm sure there's people out there that have strong networks that can share the love and actually get paid for it.
Nice. Why wouldn't you want to do that, hey? That's good stuff that people want to know and are probably way more interested in this type of thing. I go quite technical in the stuff that we talk about on these calls, and it's not for everyone, but I get a lot of comments from people saying that was really interesting. I didn't have a clue that was needed, and thank you very much. It saved me loads of money. I had a 9 o'clock call 1-to-1 last night with a mentee, somebody that we do consultancy with, and conversations just that happened on that £300 call last night saved him £10,000 in a potential mistake or lowering the bill cost for him, basically. And that's the sort of value that we hope to bring. But there's certain things that if you're not into project management, if you're not into architecture design, if you're not into development and don't get involved in the nitty-gritty operations, that these things might go over your head. But there's a lot of people that do get value from this type of thing. So thank you very much for the comments that you do make when I do go to town on a bit of detail like this. But this is about post-completion testing. So when you finish a new build, when you finish a commercial conversion, when your flats are finished, there are certain things that building control are going to want to see in terms of testing. And not all of these are relevant to conversions. Like an air test isn't necessarily relevant to a conversion unless you have specifically said in your SAP assessments that you need to achieve a certain target of air permeability test, in which case you will have to do an air test and pay for it, but they're not technically needed. The SAP assessor will just take a default value. But I'm just going to talk you through the 5 post-completion tests that you'll need for building control sign-off. Number 1 is an air test, which is what I've just mentioned. The picture relevant to this is the bottom right, big red tape with a massive fan stuck on the front entrance door of a property, and effectively what they're doing is pushing air into the building and testing it for leaks. Basically, how airtight is your property, because that all feeds into the SAP assessments and the EPCs and the thermal efficiencies of your property. So that's an air test. A noise test is needed in between flats. And in between houses, if you've got semi-detached or terraced houses, for example. But effectively what you're doing is testing the impact and the airborne noise between those two flats. So if you've got a block of flats where they're stacked above each other, you're testing the floor for airborne noise, which is people shouting, banging the drums, can you hear that noise in the flat below you? And that's what they'll test. They'll put a receiver in one of the flats and make the noise with a speaker in the other flats, and they will test the sound transfer between on an airborne basis. And then they will also use like a little rubber bangy thing. I don't know how to describe it, but basically they have a little machine that basically acts as if it was stamping on the floor and banging on the floor, and that's testing the impact noise. So those are the two main issues, testing for loud noises, which is airborne, and then testing people stomping and walking along the floor, which is more impact. And that's done with the receiver and the stereo speaker in the two different entities, and then they test the difference. And there's obviously Part E building regulations that you need to abide by to comply. So if you do this late in the day, which is you can't really do it before you've pretty much finished, because it needs to be tested with everything sealed, everything almost finished, basically. But if you get it wrong and you fail your noise test, it can be significantly costly to change what you need to change. So let's say you fail the impact test on the floor. Well, the only thing you can really do there is potentially install a new ceiling on the floor below that's suspended from the existing ceiling, for example, add more layers of acoustic plasterboard, rip up your floor, put some sound deadening quilt down. All of that type of stuff is extremely expensive because you're removing skirting, you're removing cornicing, you're spending a lot of money to rectify those issues. So you have to make sure that your floor build-ups, your wall build-ups specified by your architect are satisfactory and significant enough to meet those noise test requirements. Third on the list is a ventilation flow test. I was speaking to Alex actually earlier in the week, Jack, one of our builders, and he said, they've got way more technical with this. He said in the old days, building control used to turn up on site with an A4 piece of paper, hold it in front of the fan extract, and if it blew, it was good enough. That was the test that they used. Whereas now, you can see the guy on the right hand side tape something over the extract, has a little ventilation flow test meter, and it tells you whether it meets the 30 litres per second extract rate or the 6 litre per second, whatever that extract rate is for cooker hoods, for utility extracts, WC extracts, all that type of stuff. That's the piece of kit that they use to test those flow rates. And that's the certificate that needs to be provided to building control to sign off. Number 4, I've gone into detail on SAP tests in the past. Basically, SAP tests are what calculate your EPC rating, so your thermal efficiency, your energy performance certificate. And what you will need to do once the project is complete or just before it's completed is give your SAP assessor the as-built information. So you do an as-designed before the works commence, which says this is the specification of flooring and insulation in the walls, insulation in the roof. Do all of your SAP calculations. Let us know what you expect our EPC rating to be. Then obviously things change during the works. The builder might buy a different type of insulation, or you had to design something a certain way that was slightly more, slightly different to what you first specified. You might get a more efficient boiler or a less efficient boiler because it's more cost effective. All of these things then have an impact on your SAP assessment. So going from the as designed to then the as built needs a whole new set of calculations to show this is exactly what has been installed on site. Therefore, this is the actual EPC rating of the property, which is a legal obligation. Cool, that's SAP. And then the final thing is a drainage test. And this literally can be as simple as an email or a video or showing the building control officer on site that when you flush your toilets, it flushes appropriately. It doesn't have any blockages or anything like that. They can want proper CCDV surveys to show that there's no blockages and that you've fixed any issues, etc. But most of the time, a building control inspector will come on site, they'll flush the toilets, you'll show them that it all drains away quickly and adequately, and that's good enough. Cool, hopefully that was useful for people. That's your 5 post-completion tests that you will need for building control sign-off. Now we're light in the mood with a joke from Jack. You're on mute, by the way, though, so...
yeah, that one would be
that's the
good.
joke.
This photo, for those of you who are watching, is I typed into ChatGPT, could you make the worst salesman image for me? So for those of you that are viewing, it's a sleazy looking character that looks definitely like a salesperson. So essentially, I just wanted to share this, and I'm absolutely sure whoever said it is probably not watching this, but it just absolutely blew my socks off in terms of the process that some businesses have implemented into their business. We obviously have sales is a really, really important part of business. And it's sometimes difficult to always inherit a bit of sales because you might have a follow-up team that might not necessarily be trained in sales or comfortable to do sales. So I'm referring to, you've got a quote out the door. So let's use our surveying business as an example. If we've got a quote out, we want to make sure that the client understands the quote, they're comfortable with everything that we say we're going to do within that quote. They have fair opportunity to review it and speak to their client that might be paying for it. And also we have the opportunity that if we're outpriced, we have the opportunity to change our pricing and see if we can refine anything. Obviously, we try and get out accurate quotes, but if it's a case of 50 quid, we might be able to do something for that particular client. Anyway, I got an inbound phone call, which was a sales phone call from someone that had quoted for building control for Central Suites. And the lady, bless her, called me and said, we sent you a quote. We wanted to know how you're getting on with it. Great starting conversation, because I might say then feedback of why we haven't necessarily yet instructed them. That might be job hasn't gone ahead yet, still, potentially going ahead, whatever it may be. But anyway, my response was, unfortunately, we've gone with another provider, and it was around price. And fundamentally, the next woman's sentence, I struggled to understand because it did shock me. She said, were we too low or were we too high? And evidently, it's quite obvious what the answer is. But the principal problem is that company have got someone that doesn't understand the sales aspect of business to convert me as a future client. And that sale is so, so important. So let's role play that as if I was a salesperson. So it's how are you getting on with the quote? That's a fine starter. And it was around price. And, you said, oh, well, next time, if you can give us the opportunity of how we may be able to refine things, we might be able to do a price match for the first job so you can see how our quality is better. And then once you've understood our quality is better, you may understand why we might be more than that other client or more accurate at quoting or even faster turnaround, because price isn't necessarily anything. So that person could have asked me what my preference is, whether I want speed, quality or price. And it's kind of that trio triangle where, the quicker you are, normally the more costly it is, the less accurate you are, the cheaper it is, and following that sort of triangle to understand what the client wants. But I just thought I'd share it because it made me laugh, because I actually said, I don't think I'd be saying it was on price if you were too low. And she was like, okay, well, no worries. And then hung up the phone. I was like, wow. There needs to be someone following up those calls that's got some natural born sales skills and equally understands how to convert those clients. So just to sort of plea out there to say that if you are out there and you're putting pricing in front of a customer, make sure you have a follow-up process and make sure that the person is trained in how to do that follow-up process, because then that phone call would have been really valuable and gathered more information. Quite frequently, if we don't win business in XP surveys, we want to know the exact reason why, so that we can change our output to accommodate for what the market needs, and that's really important. So that was it. Just train your salespeople up. I'm sure we've got sales bits and episodes before on how to be a good salesperson. But there you go. That was it. That was the joke that. Quite too low.
And if you like jokes like that, please rate us. We've been running this for now like over 2 years, and we're growing steadily, which is absolutely brilliant. But we would love for you to share this with other people if you do get value from it. Rate us on Spotify, leave us a review on Apple Podcast, because it really does help to kind of tell the algorithm that there's value here. Which, we're really happy that there is. So yeah, please do share it with one person that you think who might get value from it. We are looking for ideas. Go on.
I was just going to say to our listeners that Ben's episode 4 weeks ago on Marlow and my episode last week are in the top, they will be in the top 3 watched videos. So if you haven't watched those 2 videos, the deep dive of Marlow, which is series 3 episode 5, and the acquisition special last week, go and watch those episodes, because they're the biggest trending, and that will hopefully give you a flavor of what we cover in these episodes.
Nice. Cool. So in the summer, over the last couple of years, we have raised now, what is it in total? Actually, I think it's £14,000 for Mind, the charity Mind, which is all about better mental health. And we are looking to do something similar this summer. So we're looking for a summer charity challenge. All ideas are welcome. We've spitballed a few around the office, haven't we? But we're looking to understand what might work. And I think this year it'd be good to potentially invite other people to get involved with us. This to date has always been sort of an intercompany ecosystem of people doing it. But why not get you guys involved as well if you want to join and try and raise some money for charity. So yeah, let us know about any charity ideas that you've got. I think there's, Jack, a few things you wanted to run through on it.
Yeah, I mean, we could do a potential sports event. XP and also Horde, which are a building consultancy, coupled together to join the. There was a cricket charity thing that we did at the Oval, which was amazing. Obviously, we want this to be inclusive and a challenge, so that people want to donate, because they're like, "Oh, I wouldn't do that." It's kind of the theory behind it. But we're also open to other businesses collaborating with ours to get involved as well. We normally kayak from Abingdon to Henley-on-Thames. I think the team are ready for a bit of change, which we're happy to equally do. But I don't know if there's anyone that out there as a business, small independent business, that's also thinking about doing an annual charity thing. We could club together, as Ben says. But yeah, looking for ideas. Cycling is quite a popular one, or running specific events. Tough Mudder is obviously a very common one, but we like being unique and sort of doing our own thing. So it'd be good to hear anyone's creative minds and feedback to help us raise a load of money for charity again.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, looking forward to it. Cool. And something else I'm looking forward to is our Build and Bond event. We've been doing these now, I think this is maybe our 4th or 5th. Always been a great turnout in Henley-on-Thames. So it's in the Bull on Bell Street in Henley-on-Thames. It's next Wednesday, which is the 19th of March. And we've got some really exciting speakers. The first and main speaker is Tom Ryan from ET Planning, and he is going to be talking about everything grey belt. If you are in the property development space and haven't heard of or seen something regarding these changes that the government are going to be bringing in, where have you been hiding? The government are looking to basically open up parts of the green belt that have been previously developed. It's been dubbed grey belt. I really love it. I think fundamentally there is a lot of opportunity that just happens to be within a green belt zone. And I think the common misconception is that greenbelt is lush grass and trees and forestry that these developers coming in and bulldozing and building new houses on. Couldn't be further from the truth. It was brought in very early on in the Planning Act regarding urban sprawl, but there's lots of locations that are in perfectly developable positions, like old airfields and old petrol stations and things like that just happen to be within the greenbelt, derelict, not used anymore, that are ripe for development. And that's what Tom's going to be speaking about. There'll be a panel discussion after that for Q&A around everything that's been going on with the new government and how it might impact planning and you as a property developer. We've got Tom Ryan from ET Planning on that list, on that panel. I will be sitting in on it. Claire Truman from Heritage Revival Conservation Architect, she's going to be joining us, and a few other guest speakers with a panel hosted by Jack. Drilling into some of the things that we're seeing in the area. Great opportunity to network with other building professionals. get yourself a ticket. There's a QR code on the screen. There is a bit.ly link as well, which will be in the description. So if you're interested in coming along, saying hello, meeting loads of people within the property development space, then it is definitely a great networking opportunity for you to get involved in.
Yeah,
would love to see you there.
I just wanted to reference someone that might make you a bit more excited about the grey belt opportunity, and also the grey belt topic is Paul Higgs spoke at the National Development Summit a few weeks ago, and he was head of land at Barratt Homes. So that's to give you context of his role in real estate and finding land for the last number of decades. He's been working multiple decades, and he said with his own words that this grey belt change in opportunity is the best opportunity that he's seen in his spell in property development. So if you're not coming to this event and you want to do land deals, you're really missing out, and it's not going to be recorded. Tom's kindly said he will take some time out of his day to talk about a case study that he's pushed through appeal, which I believe might be even the earliest or first appeal process in grey belt. So make sure you're there. It's free. We put on some pizzas and wine, and it'll be good to see some of our trusted listeners coming along to that. How's it?
Nice.
Social housing opportunity. So if you've been following our channel, you've probably watched us talk about our social housing portfolio called Apara Social, which we're a shareholder and founder in this portfolio. We're super pleased to say that we've actually won multiple awards for not only the investment strategy that we've chosen, but also prioritizing the clients and the end user. So all of our assets that we would buy are let to a registered housing association. And essentially, we're recapitalizing the existing portfolio. And what that means is we're essentially opening up for new investment. And we thought we'll put it out there to our channels because we do have a vast investor list and people that we work with, but they're typically sort of structured around the development investment. They're normally investing sort of 1 to 2 years. There's obviously an element of construction risk, planning risk, and it's a little slightly different appetite for investment. But this social housing portfolio is finished. There's no construction risk. The leases are with the Registered Housing Association, and they're leased for up to 10 years, full repairing leases. And essentially, there's a good opportunity for someone to come in into the portfolio just from a dry investment perspective. So we're sort of reaching out to our existing network. I also, timely, we talked about the introducer's fee and the trail. So if you know anyone that's looking for an income play or an income generating investment, please do send them our way. We're going to be staying in the portfolio, so we'll be doing all day-to-day management and all things like that. And there's tons of data that we have to show what sort of capital we require and what sort of returns we would be offering. But if you reach out to us, you could just DM Ben or myself or email us to info@expertproperty.co.uk. That's it on that.
Cool.
I'm excited to watch your rant now.
Oh,
it's normally me ranting.
I mean, it's just, I mean, Jack knows what it's all about anyway, but you know, we've got a lender at the moment, and maybe they tune into these, maybe they don't, but it's for our scheme in Marlow. And we've finished, well, we're like 3 weeks away from finishing those 8 units. If you've been tuning in over the last couple of months, you'd have understood that we had 50 viewings on our launch day on a Saturday a couple of weeks ago. And within a week, we had 5 of those units under offer at or, you know, above asking price. You know, clearly we've tested the market. We've had significant response. There's huge demand for the area. And we continue to get more viewings for the ones that aren't yet finished and offers over the line. So it's, you know, there's clearly demand in the area. We had a valuation on day one, which was far less than what we anticipated. You know, it was something like 2.77 million. And our anticipated figure was like 3.0 whatever. So even from day one, we thought they were 10% less than where they should be. Now, we weren't too concerned because we were buying well. It gave us what we needed from a valuation perspective, from a net day one perspective, from a build cost perspective. Weren't any issues. We've obviously got these projects under offer, these properties under offer, and we need an extension on the project because it's delayed slightly. We only really need probably like 3 months, but we'll probably get longer than that. But the lender is asking us to service debt, is asking us to potentially bring in more equity, because as far as they're concerned, their loan to value is higher than their guidance. Their computer says no, figures, whether that be, I think it's 68% or something. Whereas with our true GDV that we've actually achieved, their loan to value is, I think, 57% maybe max. So significantly low risk from their perspective. But they want to abide by the valuation that is 18 months old, 10% lower than our original figures, and what now is 15% lower than the actual valuations and sales we have under offer. And we've just been back and forth with this lender trying to get them to understand or get to a position whereby they agree that what they're talking about is nonsense. Now, they're kind of led by their own valuer. And this is my rant, really, that the original valuer has been given all of the sales memos, been given all of the marketing material, been given all of the relevant information about, the finished project, and sent a one-liner email saying, sorry, unfortunately, I stand by my original valuation. I don't think the market has moved that much. And my valuation still stands. So we're left in a position where we've basically agreed sales at almost £500,000, probably 16-17% above the level that he originally valued the site. Yet the lender isn't willing to budge based on what that valuer said. Now we've ended up in hopefully a good position whereby we've introduced a new RICS valuer that is more pragmatic and understands really what should happen here, in that the true sales value and true market value of that site is what people have been willing to pay for it, which is what we have under offer, which makes complete sense to me. If you've tested the market, you've got basically over 80 inquiries for one development. You've gone to best and finals on numerous of those units, and you've accepted offers way above the asking prices that you've launched to the market to. There's clearly demand. That's what the market's telling you that they are worth, not some person doing a desktop valuation looking at comps from 9 months ago, which are actually 18 months ago. Just completely not pragmatic. So that is my rant.
Yeah, I mean, it's two problems here, isn't it? It's the bank, the lender not taking a view on reality. So a good question to ask a lender is, can you provide, before you borrow from them, can you give me an example of the last time you took a view on something? Because if they go, oh, credit, don't do that, they're going to be like this at that point. And equally, the surveyor, realistically, if the surveyor, wrote some commentary in their evaluation saying all of these have been agreed at this value, that is now market value, they're not exposed on the API cover because that's reality at that moment in time. Where the lender might be exposed is they might be having an interest rate that's reducing their LTV progressively during the sales. So the value has also been a bit lazy and could have probably looked into a bit more. But I mean, we have rants like this all the time. The first deal I ever did, I got a down valuation and I could never get my head around it. And we're still having these conversations. So if you find a good valuer, put them in a little jar because you won't find another.
Yeah, very true. Cool. And if you want to get guidance and advice from Jack and I, we do offer consultancy services. There's packages on our website. Effectively, it's £300 an hour for ad hoc services. We package that up on a bulk deal of 4 hours for £1,000 plus VAT. And if you're really looking to kind of jumpstart your business and want a proper sort of 4-hour sit down with Jack and I to go through business strategy, talk about how to deliver on what you want to do over the next 12 months and really go in depth with your business and look under the bonnet, then the last package is potentially right for you as well. So would love to work with more of you. We're doing way more of this now. Like I was up at 9 o'clock last night doing a one-to-one, as I mentioned earlier, and we love it. It's kind of great sort of spitballing ideas and seeing how we can add value and save money and add value with the session. So if you're interested in that, do reach out. We would love to speak to you. Cool. I mentioned we had quite a good series of questions on the Q&A this week. 2 of them are from Peter, who is a regular viewer and regular questioner. So thank you very much, Peter. Some really, really insightful questions from you as always. So let's jump in with Jack. when you work on your gross margin off the GDV at a minimum of 20%, how do you factor the time into it? Or is your minimum of 20% the annualized margin?
Yeah, so the really good question. So the percentage on GDV is the duration of the project. Obviously, before you start the project, that's an estimate of how long it's going to take. So let's say we've got our Marlow site, for an example, we should be in and out within 18 months. So if we're making a 20% on GDV, what you need to do is you need to divide that by 18 times by 12 to get your annualized rate. And we would like to typically, return on GDV and return on cash are two very different things. So return on GDV, we just leave at above 20%. That is an easy, quick, ready reckoner for lenders to see where their loan to value is for the cash. But what is really important for potentially the developer is actually return per annum. So what we do is we take the gross income, divide it by the amount of years that it takes to deliver, and we target over £200,000 net per annum per deal. This should always be in line with your overheads as a company. So if you're a one-man band and you think your business costs 50 grand a year to run, you don't want to be doing a scheme that's bringing you in 40 grand per year because you're not washing its face. You want to do larger schemes than that, or potentially more schemes than just the one. So that's how we factor in the revenue, the profit off the sort of GDV, and then we also factor in an annualized rate of return or indefinite rate of return for the investor over 20% per annum as well, is what we target. So that's on 50% of the income of the project. So you just take the amount invested, the amount returned to the investor, divided by how many years it takes to deliver, will give you the return on that cash per annum.
Nice. Cool. Wholesome Nutrition, thanks for your comment. Was made aware of this channel through the Ground Up Pod, really valuable content, so thanks. I believe I've previously heard you mention some conversion schemes where you've used PD to convert X amount of units and flats and disposed of some and kept some as HMOs. I was hoping you might be able to touch on the practical / technical aspects of how some flats can be held as HMOs under PD or planning law. Never got my head around, as it wasn't aware of PD enabling HMOs and flats typically can only be used as such. Yeah, I think I might have answered this on the on YouTube. But the specific case that I know you're referring to is the old Maltings, whereby we actually have got we went for full planning to get from a 1-bed flat to a 5-bed HMO. And that was the full planning process. The rest of the original 1-bed flat was part of the Class MA process that we enhanced and moved forward with, but that particular piece of the building was a full planning application to extend the front part of the building. Under a full planning application, it was always a HMO from day one. For things like the 2 new builds, for example, that we're building in the old Maltings, they are planning approved as 3-bed houses, but because there's no restriction then to it's not PD, it's a full planning application, there's no PD restriction to go from a 3-bed house to a 5-bed HMO, for example. So you're completely right there. With Class MA, for example, your rights under C3 to C4 conversion to small HMOs up to 6 occupants has been removed. So yeah, there's various ways around it. You could and we have looked at doing this. We did look at this doing this for the doctor's surgery, whereby you get Class MA approval, you do all the works, and then you put in a planning application to turn some of those units to HMOs. And you've already done the conversion. It's already there operating. So from a planning policy perspective, there's probably not a lot of resistance from a planning from a council to then convert some of those units to HMOs. So get a good planning consultant, understand, you clearly understand and have read some of the rules, because there'll be some people that do Class MA conversions that don't realize they can't then go and use C3 to C4 permitted development to convert to HMOs. So yeah, hopefully that was useful. How do you don't want to be greedy? This is Peter asking another question. Never greedy, Peter, keep them coming. What are the most common pitfalls in commercial to residential conversions, and how can we mitigate or at least manage them? I've got some good ones here actually, from my conversation last night with the mentee. But utilities are, we bang about it all the time. He was like, this conversion is only going to take eight weeks. And I was like, how are you getting on with your utilities connections? Oh, I haven't done this bit. I'm like, okay, well, that's going to be your bottleneck, because your builders might crack on and finish in 8 weeks. Brilliant. But if you can't then get them signed off in building control because you've got no water connections, that's going to be the thing that delays your process. So whenever you're looking at any project, you should be looking at your bottlenecks, your biggest risks, and trying to get those over the line as soon as possible. So definitely understanding utilities. And we've been burnt on numerous schemes. Our cost of utilities on the old malting scheme is significantly more than what we anticipated. And there's always going to be a little bit of that because you can't always get to the point where you've got a full scheme designed, you've gone to the local authority, the local network providers, you've got them to give you a price, before buying a site. It's just not possible. So you have to make an estimate. And we're, I guess, getting better at estimating some of those things now that we've gone through some of the schemes that we've gone through. We can be more accurate going forward, making our estimations. So utilities is one of the key ones. Other common pitfalls is working with planning consultants. I think going back to the previous question, make sure you're working with a planning consultant that understands the PD process. And I've seen some horror stories where people have bought sites unconditionally and haven't been able to get the PD that they wanted because of some red flags that they should have looked at early on and got a planning consultant to review. So yeah, there's a few. Jack, any more?
I've broken mine down in two parts, a little bit of crossover. So first of all, sales. Often commercial conversions can have extremely compromised sales depending on the building nature. If it's a deep footplate, you might not have a lot of glazing or windows shining light into it. Obviously, you're reworking something, and you essentially need to make sure that it feels nice. So what I'm getting at is office vibes. Like, you don't want to feel like you're living in an old building that was something else and now is something different. So it's all about thinking about the design and consideration. That can work in your favor because often commercial conversions are in great locations. So it's kind of give and take, and you need to make sure that design is very relevant. Now on to costs. Ben mentioned utilities, but I've got a few more. One thing I would say is there's tons of jokers out there that think that analysing a conversion on a build cost is really easy. They take the GIA minus 15%, times it by £150 square foot, and they've got their build costs. That is not correct. You need to be very detailed with the build costs. Every scheme is different. Every footplate is different. Every makeup of building is different. They can be really easy and really straightforward and really cost effective. But you need to be on top of that. Asbestos, I've got a friend that got whacked with a 90 grand asbestos bill that they weren't predicting. Windows, make sure you look at the windows because that could be another 90 grand that you might not be expecting. Structure, obviously, when you're buying a plot of land, you've got to worry about getting out of the ground. With a commercial building, you've got to worry about the building fabric as it is. Ben's mentioned utilities, and then last but not least, access. Access is really important to budget for your costs. If you haven't got any access and you can't store materials anywhere, the contractor is going to put their price up for inconvenience and having to handle waste and bring in new materials every day. But they're like the common areas that I would focus on. But we love them. The reason we love them is because you can buy an existing building like we do for £100 a square foot, and it's impossible to replace it if it were to be new build, and your replacement value is a lot higher than what we pay for the shell itself.
Nice. This has given me a very good idea on the next deep dive when we do one to answer this question. Look at specifically commercial to residential conversions 101, and we've got huge amounts of experience in doing that. So I think a standalone episode around commercial to residential conversion I think would be very good for the type of people that are listening to this. So yeah, if you think that's a good idea, drop commercial conversions down in the comments, and if we get 10 comments, we'll do it within the next 3 months. 10.
I might do 9 comments.
10.
I wanted to quickly share Araja's highlights from last week, which was a quote that I said, which is, "Why the F would you buy a castle?" So if you haven't watched last week's episode, which was the Jacquisition special, go ahead and watch it. All good.
Right. Cool. Good stuff. Well, hope you all have a great weekend. Hopefully you found this valuable. If you have, follow, subscribe, share it with one person, and have a great weekend, and speak to you next week.
Or 2 people. At least.
Or 2 people. As many as possible.
At least as one person.
Cheers, everyone. Bye.